Art with Woo Shading Techniques. Let's take the time and look at some shading techniques. I'll give you some step-by-steps and what you'll need in order to achieve a more realistic look. First, you'll need a blending stump, but if you don't have a blending stump, you can use a napkin. Just roll it up really tight, like a tortilla, which is what a blending stump is. Get the tip nice and tight and tiny to resemble a blending stump. Check it out, they almost look the same. Make sure your pencils are sharp. Never draw with a dull pencil. The sharper the pencil, the more precise the point will be. So now I'm going to introduce the regular shading technique. Hold your pencil at a slant, take it up and down, back and forth. The more pressure, the darker. The less pressure, the lighter it will be. Now, take a look. Very subtle. You can use a blending stump to blend your pencil, and that really gives that richness and the realistic look that you'll be looking for. Or you can use your finger. Now you can also use your handmade blending stump, which is a napkin rolled up really tight. You can also use a rolled up piece of paper as well. Now let me introduce you to hatching. Hatching is great for when you're wanting to add texture, maybe on a face, or add like the roughness of an item or an article. Hatching is thin parallel lines at an angle, or you can do them up and down depending on the shape of the object. Cross-hatching. Cross-hatching is thin parallel lines that cross each other. So take a look at how I slant my lines as I apply them. So cross-hatching and hatching, they're very similar. They both add texture. So again, hatching, cross-hatching. Why don't you try? Next, let's take a look at stippling. Stippling are tiny dots used for value. You just hold your pencil down at the tip and dot, 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 dot. The sound can get pretty annoying, but the effect is what we're looking for. You can also blend them with a blending stump or your pencil. I like to use a Sharpie. Ultra fine tip or fine tip works fine. Let's create a value scale now. And with the value scale, it will show you your shading techniques going from light to dark. So now we're creating our scale. Just make a very skinny rectangle. I like to do 5 boxes. Number it going from 0 to 4. Label your first box as light because that is where the light is coming from, and your last box is labeled as dark because there is no light there. Draw your arrow going from light to dark. Now let's start shading. Again, the first box is where the light is. The last box is where there is no light. So in the first box, nothing goes there because there is no light. Second box, we start to slowly get darker. Hold your pencil at a slant, shade it back and forth, very lightly. Because remember, you're going to work your way into getting into the darkness. So take your time. Fill in each box. Again, we're going from light to dark. try to blend all the boxes together so that they look like they're running from one to the next, because that's the whole effect of the value scale, showing it going from light to dark. Use your fingers, like I said, just to blend it in. Clean up your value scale when you're finished with it, but let's just finish this last box and make it really dark, because that's complete darkness. There is no light. All right, I'm going to use my eraser now to clean up. Sometimes I use an old paintbrush just to use as like a little broom. Comes in handy. Now we need to create value scales for all of our shading techniques. So let's draw some tiny value scales. We are going to create a value scale for hatching. In hatching, it's the same as shading. In the first box, nothing goes in the first box because that's where the light is. Now going into your second box, you're going to start drawing your hatching lines, but they need to be far apart to show the lightness. As it gets darker, the lines get closer. Now we're going to go to our cross-hatching value scale. Same thing applies as it did with hatching. You're going to draw your lines spread apart, and as you get darker, the lines must come closer together. Let's go to stippling. Now with stippling is somewhat similar as hatching and cross-hatching. The less dots, the lighter it is. The more dots, the darker it is. And in that last box, you want to smother that last box with nothing but dots until you can barely see white underneath. Let's label them. Going from 0 to 4. Remember, we have to show going from light to dark. Now your chart should look just like this, and each one should be labeled. You have regular shading, stippling, hatching, and cross-hatching. Remember, they're numbered going from 0 to 4 and from light to dark. And make sure you use your arrow to show that. Here is a form that I created. Let me show you how to get here. Let's speed things up. First, I'm going to use my 2 points to draw my circle, and we're going to turn that circle into a sphere. You must have a light source, and your light source will show where your light is coming from. Hey, wait a minute, I'm doing this wrong. This definitely would not be correct. But it's okay, I'll keep going. Pay attention to how I'm shading. Let's get rid of that sun and put it on the other side. Now we're working. You can use your eraser to help you out to add your highlights. Use your blending stump or your pencil to help you blend that pencil in so it looks more realistic. We are now turning this circle into a sphere. square into a cube. Let's pick it up. So I put my light source, and I went on ahead and did my shadow first. Now I'm coming in, lightly shading, getting everything just right. Take your blending stump and begin to blend to give it that added realism. The darkness should always land closest to the shadow. Clean up your outside edges, and there you have it. I want to show you how to use hatching next. Don't forget the light source. Now you don't always have to draw a light source. I just do that so that you all can see why I'm shading the way that I'm shading. Okay, so we're going to start this sphere with hatching. Hatching provides like a texture-like effect. And because this object is round, you'll want to hatch with a curve. So not with a straight edge, more of a curve. So that it still holds its roundness. So this would be considered hatching. Just a little bit to kind of give it a more realistic look. And there's your shadow, and your shadow would definitely be a rounded edge due to the fact that this is a rounded object. With straight edge objects, you would want to give it a straight edge shadow. Now I will create a cube, and I will use hatching and cross hatching as a shading technique. Let's pick it up. Now, because this is a straight edge box, we want to do straight edge lines. Now, I went from hatching to cross hatching. I've showed you some techniques. Now, you try. I hope you enjoyed what you just saw. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe. Blue Soul Artist.